Man, it is freezing outside. I mean, it's probably not crazy cold, not like Montreal cold, but it's still pretty cold considering that about 2 weeks ago, or maybe more than that, it's probably about a month ago, I was outside in like a short sleeve shirt and long pants. So it's quite a drastic change to go summer. It's actually freezing in here too. So basically we are at episode 20, which is also the fourth installment of the how to get your shoulder from being in pain or something. It's written at the bottom. If you haven't checked out those episodes, linked right up above. I almost did that again. And also, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and let me know what you guys think about this and previous episodes. So today what we're gonna be covering is essentially the exercise component of the entire shoulder rehab process. So in the 3 previous episodes, basically we spoke about it I explained the process of it, which will be linked right here. The second phase was the second part basically, which was the first practical phase, was basically you getting an idea of how to release the tissue around it, create some mobility at the spine, linked right there. And the third which was also the second phase of the entire practical portion, which was getting an idea of how to maintain a nice posture, move your arms around, and then create some solid and proper range of motion at the shoulder, linked right there. So if you haven't checked out those, they'll be linked previously a couple of seconds. You can rewind that, hit that right there, and check those out because they're really important. If you're not doing those, there's no point in doing this, because if you have a limited range and a limited problem, or your limitation is coming from the spine or something stuck in the shoulder, you need to be able to clear that up as fast as possible, especially if there's a muscle that's being pinched or being pulled because it's not free to move because it has to be released. Those things are gonna have to be dealt with again. Now, once again, I do wanna mention that it's extremely important that if you do have shoulder pain, get it treated first. Go get someone to take a look at it before you start trying to assume that everything that I'm giving you right now is gonna be the end all be all and it's gonna fix all of your problems. So enough said, let's get right into it. So you'll notice that the first second portion, it was in one of those episodes. There's also still a hole in my wall right there. They're supposed to come and fix it tomorrow. But anyway, in the first or second portion, I was basically talking about, Jesus Christ, I have to sit down. I was talking about how if your shoulder blade wasn't moving properly and it wasn't gliding properly over your rib cage, you're highly likely to get injured or have some kind of pain come about. So today is basically gonna be focused at trying to get you to understand how to get that to stay in the same place and still have the muscles that are in there do what they're supposed to do, which is basically control that shoulder blade as it slides around so that muscles that are holding onto your arm, the rotator cuff muscles, can actually do their job as well. And those are probably the areas that you're gonna be dealing with the most problems. The majority of your muscular problems are gonna be coming from the rotator cuff, which is made up of 4 muscles that are all basically there to kind of hold on to that arm and make sure it stays in a socket and doesn't come flying out. So if you don't have a strong understanding of the shoulder blade, then the muscles that are attached to it are also going to follow suit and just kind of be all over the place. So basically we need to kind of establish that. So essentially the major problem is that we don't actually have a strong sense of what are the best exercises to do that, right? We end up having a great understanding of what the problem is, but the exercises is where we go wrong. And the reason that's happening is that the main issue that's gonna come about with the majority of rehab plans and the majority of exercise plans is that we focus so much more on the recipe instead of the execution of it. So we spend so much time trying to understand what the best exercises are. We're always searching for that best exercise instead of trying to make those exercise executed the best way possible. What I mean by that is I recently posted something about a lunge where someone had a knee injury and I was using a lunge to rehab them. And honestly, like, you really don't have to go very far to search for knee rehab exercises. A lunge is a great knee rehab exercise because if it's something you're gonna need to be doing during the season, you wanna make sure that your knee is actually in the right place when you're doing that lunge, which is probably what's causing the majority of the knee pain. So if you're able to execute on those basic exercises properly, then it really doesn't become that much more complicated. It really just comes down to understanding how well to execute those exercises. So today what we're gonna be doing is gonna be going through 3 exercises. And I want to mention that these are just 3 of the exercises you could possibly choose. It is freezing in here. 1 second. Oh, the lighting in here is bad. Let me turn it this way. Everybody was laughing at me because I had this sweater and it's been basically sitting there for the last 6 months. Actually, no one was really laughing at me. My sister was just pissed off and wanted me to take it home. So this basic sweater was sitting there for the longest time and I knew it was going to come in handy one day. So joke's on them. Perfect, much better. Okay, so the 3 exercises that I'm gonna be giving you are not the only exercises you can use. You can use a ton of different exercises. It just basically comes down to these 3 exercises. So the ones that I usually use with my clients that I can understand, that are basically hitting 3 major areas that I want you to work on, and it really just comes down to you being able to do them. So I'd rather use 3 exercises and do them every single day than give you 17 exercises and you do them once a week, because it's 17 exercises and who has the time to do 17 rehab exercises? So these 3 exercises are first going to be done with an elastic, which is basically the first one is using a mini band here. Let me just go get it. I really should probably set these things up a little bit closer. Anyway, let's get right into these exercises. So what you're gonna do is grab your elastic and you're gonna put it around your forearms like this. So the way to do it is all right, the sweater's getting in the way, 1 second. Much better. So basically take that elastic, get it around your forearms, and from here, all you're doing is just separating your shoulder, making sure that we get that nice spine position so you're staying up nice and tight. From here, separating the shoulder, and basically you're just gonna hold it here. This is as simple as it is. You're coming from here, opening it up, gonna hold it for about 3 seconds, bringing it back in, separating it, holding it for 3 seconds, coming back in. The quick way to know if you're doing this exercise poorly, where's the elastic going? If it slides up, you're doing it wrong, because now your elbows are out and your hands are in and you're letting the elastic slide up. So if the elastic stays down, your arms are coming straight up and down and you're not letting them bow in and you're not letting your arms come out, because if they come out, it's gonna slide up, which never really ever happens. I don't know why I even showed you that. So you're only gonna ever have this problem. So separate it. If you wanna make it easier, bring it lower. The closer it gets to your elbow, the easier it gets. The higher you bring it, the harder it gets. So that's the first exercise. Now, luckily for you, the second exercise also requires this elastic in that same position. So from here, you're separating and then sliding your arms up and then bringing them back down. So you want to get the elastic to come to your forehead. That's going to be that position. Let me kneel down here. Let me get a little bit lower so you guys can see it. Sliding up and bringing it back down. So once that arm comes up to the forehead, once the elastic hits that forehead, you're good. Come back down. If you want to make that exercise just a tad bit more challenging, bring it up to here, or start down here, bring it up, hold it up here, and slowly come back down. What that's doing is that's getting the muscles in the shoulder to kind of hold on to that shoulder blade a little bit more. They're being more aware of where it is in its position. And then from here, we're just naturally allowing our shoulder to rise up and getting that natural shrugging pattern to happen. With that shrugging pattern, what's gonna happen is we're allowing our shoulder to gain some control as we reach up overhead. That's really gonna be one of the most crucial components. If we can get that hand to come and reach up overhead and still stabilize that shoulder, we're gonna be in a much better situation and in a much better position to be able to control that shoulder. Now from there, we're gonna go into the third exercise, which is going to be on the ground. So basically the final exercise you're gonna be doing is a bear crawl. Very common exercise, very basic. Let me get this elastic out of here. Very basic exercise, and all you're gonna be doing with this is basically trying to control that spine, control the core, and really just try to jam the shoulder right back into the socket. If you're able to jam the shoulder back into the socket, you're gonna get a strong response from the rotator cuff muscles to stabilize the joint, especially if your shoulder is in the right place, your shoulder blade's in the right place, and your spine is in the right place. So basically from here, what we're doing is we're gonna get into kind of a crawling position. Let me just get back here so I can see myself in the camera there. I can squeeze a bit more, perfect. So from here, pulling the toes up, knees are coming up off the ground just a bit. We're pulling the knees off the ground by about an inch, not much more than that. So from here, what I'm doing is I'm gonna try crawling by moving my opposite hand and opposite leg and then alternating to the other side. So basically what it looks like is I'm basically crawling, but just not sliding my legs on the ground. I'm literally up in the air the whole time. So from here, I'm just taking small steps, and essentially that small step that I'm gonna be taking is gonna be more than enough to just kind of pack the shoulder in, but still have my arms sliding up. Let me show you that one more time, because I think a lot of you probably just saw like a couple of reps and that's it. So basically from here, sliding forward. If you want to be really challenging, you can basically pull it off, coming backwards, and essentially just play around with that and getting used to having the shoulder always being trying to punch it back into the socket and trying to compress it in. That's gonna get that response, that compression response that we want out of the shoulder. And that's usually one of the areas that a lot of us are getting trouble or having trouble in, is when we have some kind of load in our hand and it's being compressed back into the shoulder. Instead of being able to stabilize because the spine's not in the right position, we try to shrug up, we try to get the upper traps involved. That's why when we were doing that stuff on the wall in the second part, we basically had issues with trap, levator scapula, all these muscles that are basically involved in this shrugging pattern, basically going out of their way to kind of stabilize the shoulder. And that's coming from not having it packed into the right place, and knowing that as we raise, it should follow suit as we raise and not basically just be there before hand even gets up there. And that, my friends, concludes the fourth part of the how to make your shoulder feel better. Probably not the name of it, but like I told you, I pretty much forgot. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time, where we will probably be discussing something else, hopefully not shoulders.